Hello and welcome to another episode of SLP's Wine and Cheese. I'm Deb, and today I am joined by Amanda Schomburg. You might know her better as Panda Speech. Hi, Amanda.
Hello, everybody.
And I meant to ask you this. So where did Panda come from, the Panda Speech?
So I was obsessed with pandas as a child, and my name also rhymes with it. So when I was little, my name was Amanda Panda, because I was demanding, I guess.
Makes sense. My sister's name is Amanda, and I remember people saying like Amanda Panda a lot. I guess that's pretty common for Amandas.
Right.
Yeah. So today I am drinking some water. I just want to let everyone know that my doctor said that I have the perfect amount of amniotic fluid. So I want to thank the listeners for sticking with me in all my water intake. Thank you. She's like, it's like you studied. I was like, I think I did.
That's impressive. Yeah. I've never heard that before.
No. Maybe she's just like, this girl likes to be complimented. So maybe she just tells me stuff. And she's always telling me how good I am and how she like wants to clone me. And I'm like, I'm just nailing this whole pregnancy thing. My goodness. So do you have anything to drink, Amanda?
Well, I drink Pinot Noir. It's my thing. And I'm actually trying this kind. It's called from Oyster Bay, New Zealand, because my husband is half New Zealander. Okay. So we thought we would give that a try.
Very nice. Yeah, Pinot Noir during my drinking days is my favorite type of wine. Unless it's a hot summer day, then I like that very basic rosé.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. Yes. I heard Pinot Noir is the best for heart. So basically my doctor prescribed it for me. So
oh yeah, I mean that's very important. So we should definitely follow doctor's orders. Yeah. So yeah, make sure you stay up to date on your intake with that. So today, Amanda and I are going to chat about being an autism mom and also how that's kind of like impacted your SLP career and journey. So I'm wondering, were you an SLP before you were a mom? What was chicken or the egg? Which
well, it actually I kind of hatched the egg in the middle. So I was not, yeah. I waddled across the graduation stage 9 months pregnant for my bachelor's. And then 2 months later, I started grad school with a 2-month-old. And I was freshly divorced. Oh, yes. So single mom, 2 months old, walking into grad school, like, I'm going to do this. And I did. So there you go.
Well, people do hard things. And that was a hard sentence. So, wow. So you were 9 months pregnant.
I try to be understanding. Yes. And when my graduate students come to me and they're like, this is hard. I'm like, do you have a baby or a fresh baby by yourself? You don't?
Yeah. Did you just complete a divorce with a 2-month-old baby and then start graduate school?
Exactly. Yes. So the chicken and egg kind of came together with that whole process.
Okay. All right. So essentially this kind of molded you because you spent your education and your life experience kind of like happened at the same time then. So I'm sure that was kind of like, so you're watching development while you're learning about development.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that was a hard part for me because I'm in all these like, normal development classes and then my child isn't having normal development. And it was a hard time. And so of course, all of my, my fellow intern, graduate student, whatever they're called.
I guess like everyone in your cohort.
Yes, that's the word. I couldn't think. It's been so long.
I never use that word. I think that's a new word. Or maybe it's not a new word, but I never said that when I was studying, but I hear people say it now.
Yeah, I don't remember if I did or not, but basically I would tell them, hey, my son's doing this. Do you think that's typical? And they're like, no, it's not. We just learned that. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Right. You're like,
So,
but tell me again.
I'm like, I need to hear it one more time.
One more time.
Yeah.
But how about in this situation?
Right.
Yeah. That makes sense, because it's like you're probably thinking like, but no, or it's fine. Yeah. I understand that. So that's kind of like what your journey to diagnosis was like.
Yeah. So, really the thing when he was a toddler, most toddlers like to be thrown up in the air, wrestled around, swung around. But anytime you did any of those things, his whole little body would stiffen and shake. And he would scream, and he didn't talk. Now, he was obsessed with numbers and letters and animals. So he could tell you every letter in your house and read words, but he wouldn't tell you what he wanted to eat or that, what was wrong. So I knew there was speech delays, and I really worked on that a lot. Even though the doctor wanted to do a referral, it's like, I am in grad school, I got this. And hindsight, not a good idea. Always refer out.
Right. Because you're already doing so much as a mom.
Yes. Oh, yes. And then I don't know, in your grad school, Boardmaker gave us free trials. So I basically, the decor of my apartment was Boardmaker, little pictures, and he would just point to everything he wanted everywhere. I mean, bathroom, cabinets, fridge. I mean, it was like, Boardmaker threw up in my apartment, but that's how we got through, And so at 3, we got him evaluated for occupational therapy, and he was diagnosed with sensory processing. And we started therapeutic course writing and OT, and that was fabulous. But then the behavior started, like the meltdowns, the screaming. And so at 4 years old, we got a behavioral psychologist involved, and he helped us there. And he was officially diagnosed with Asperger's at 7. However, shortly after that, the DSM changed that diagnosis. So then they changed it to autism spectrum.
Okay. So when did he start being able to like self-advocate or tell you what he wanted?
So at around 3, he started talking, and it's like when it happened, it was full on sentences and like adult like speech. So he went from no talking to full on adult speech. Which is, I've seen that in my practice as well. And, you say self-advocating, that is his biggest struggle throughout he's a high schooler now. It makes me want to cry saying that, but even today, his asking for help or telling people, something is wrong, that's one of the biggest struggles he still has today. But as far as talking like full on, it was about 3.
Oh, okay. All right. So then you mentioned that by the time he was 7 is when he actually got the diagnosis, and then they changed it to...
Yeah. They called me up, and I'm like, I understand, I'm in that world. Yes.
Right.
Whatever. The label doesn't matter. It's how we support him. But, I was in denial, like a lot of parents are. They're not wanting to accept it yet, so it took me a while to get there. It's really when he started school. He didn't need special education, but he struggled socially and sensory wise. So I got him a 504 plan, which is another disability program in the public school systems. And he just needed a little bit of support, and for teachers to understand why these behaviors are happening. And that really was like a weight off my shoulders, because before, that was probably 3rd or 4th grade before we got that, I would have to go in and train every teacher. Okay, here's what's going to happen. He's going to flip out if you do this. Set him in the back of the class. Don't put him in the middle. And it was stressful for me. It was very stressful.
Yeah, I can imagine. So for how long did he receive all of the related services?
He did OT and horse therapy till 6. And then at 6, that's when we started speech therapy for social skills, and we did social group. And he did that for about 2 years. And then he had behavioral counseling on and off. Even now, if he needs it, he can still go back to it. But right now he has no services. He has his 504 plan in high school, but he is doing so well. He made varsity tennis team as a freshman. So he is amazing Athlete, yes. He actually just made district in cross country. He can run for like miles. He can do marathons.
Wow.
And basically anything this child does, he learns how to be the best, which it's also, I have to kind of scale him back because I'm like, dude, you can't do everything, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You can do anything, but you can't do everything. That's
exactly perfect. Yes, because he does. And so my big skill, I mean, nobody knows this. This is probably the first time it's getting out there, but I am a really good like Forrest Gump style ping pong player. I mean, I'm really good.
Oh my.
And I don't have that skill.
Yeah.
Well, I used to go to summer camp and I was the champion for 5 years straight. Like I'm good. Like I'm not exaggerating. Anyway, so he made it his mission to beat me. And now he is literally Forrest Gump. And it's terrifying to see how good he is. I can beat him every once in a while now, but yeah, it was a sad day when he surpassed me.
Wow, that's amazing. When I was younger, I was like really good at hula hoop and I beat everyone at hula hoop. And then I hadn't done it for a long time. And I entered like a hula hoop, unofficial hula hoop, just, neighborhood competition, just entered it as confidently as I did. And I think like I actually gained some curves by that point because I was a little older. And I was like, I'm the best hula hooper there is. And I could not hula hoop, so I'm a little traumatized by that. It's like you think you can do something forever without touching it for, I don't know, 3 years. And then,
right.
Like my whole body changed. I had no idea. Like the hula hoop just went straight down.
Oh yeah.
But that
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, he also has the world record for pogo sticking, but I didn't record it because it was for like, I think it was like 3.5 hours. He was outside my kitchen window and I was just like, whatever, go do that. And he read that the world record was less. And he goes, if you would have just recorded me, I could have been in the book. And I'm like, I'm not recording you for 3 hours doing the pogo stick. I'm sorry.
How would you even send that file?
I know. I'd have to like majorly compress it. So yeah, anything he does, like he juggles, he does everything. He's just he's an amazing kid.
That's amazing. Well, congratulations on that. Good for him.
Oh, thanks.
So having a child, I know that people have said this to me all the time, and I'm having a baby, so I don't know yet. But lots of people have said to me that like who I am as a speech therapist will change when I have my own kids. And I'm assuming that's because like you have your own and then you want like you want your child to be treated in a certain way, so you like kind of see every kid differently.
Right.
Not to downgrade how, because I feel like I always look at every kid and I'm like, imagine this was my kid and I didn't even have one.
Right.
But so how has being an autism mom impacted your SLP work?
Well, kind of like you said, when you become a parent, you have a unique perspective. You see a child in all of their developmental phases and you get to watch it firsthand. So I think that gives me an advantage because I've gone through the day-to-day, the routines, the transition meltdowns, the, talking to school meetings, driving to therapy. I've done it all. Yeah. And I think it's real easy for therapists to like assign all these awesome home tasks and carryover activities. And I remember my speech therapists and OTs would do that. And then I would come to the session and they'd be like, how did it go? And I would just start crying. I didn't have time. I'm so sorry,
Yeah.
It just,
yeah.
So like, and
because you're like, I didn't do my homework. That's probably
right.
Like don't
exactly. Well, the biggest one, his social group therapist was like, I want you to have a play date. This was like kindergarten, first grade, once a week with a kid from his class. That was really difficult because number one, I didn't know any of the moms at this school. And number two, he didn't have friends. And number three, he was usually having meltdowns after school. He would keep it together at school all day. And when we would get home from school, it's when meltdowns would happen until bedtime. I'm like, when am I supposed to have a kid over and, play a board game or go play Candyland? When,
Yeah.
So that was really hard for me. And so as a speech therapist now, I kind of have that in the back of my mind. And so I ask those questions to parents, before I assign it, like, would it be a possibility to have a kid over? Not, try to do that every week.
Right. Just the phrasing alone, just, how can we increase socialization? Is this possible?
Well, and another thing that I'm always helping, because I do autism in-home consultations for my job. So I'll go to a home and I'll talk with families about, so what do we want to do? What is the goal here? What are our problem areas? What are the challenges? And a lot of them are transitioning, and a lot of them are behavior and discipline. And so I learned a lot as a mom, because when he was little, I would never discipline him. And my husband was like, you've got to discipline him. And I was like, he's having a sensory meltdown. I can't get him in trouble, And so we went to that psychologist, and he said, you're not disciplining the meltdown, but you are going to discipline when he screams in your face. He has to learn you can't scream in mommy's face.
Right.
So that's a huge thing. And so I learned to teach my son to ask for help. So when the light hit his eye, instead of coming and screaming and trying to hide in my clothes, I taught him to say, mommy, help, or my eyes hurt, and so that's something I help with families, because a lot of parents were just like me. They didn't know what to do. They didn't want to get their child in trouble for a meltdown. But I told them, you don't have to be screamed at or hit or kicked. So that's a huge area that I think is helpful for the families I work with. And then adapting to change, as we all know, kids with autism, they thrive on those routines, those schedules. But if you never tweak them, they don't adapt to unexpected things that are coming at us at all times. So I teach parents, hey, yeah, that routine is working, but let's tweak it just a tiny bit and help them adapt. That way, when new things come at them, they can learn to adjust.
Right. And this is not something that people would just think of on their own, even though it sounds quite simple. And many people are probably like, this is the routine works. So they wouldn't even think to deviate, but you're right. They have to be adaptable.
Absolutely. My son, I have 3 boys. So I also had 2 neurotypical children that I'm trying to give love and attention to. Because a lot of times kids with needs get the most attention, and not purposely. So I was managing all of that. Well, so his little brother was supposed to, when they were little, brush his teeth first, and then my son would go next. And one day it wasn't working out, and he melted down. It's my turn to brush teeth. It's my turn, So I purposely switched their schedule and said, next week, you're going first. He's going second. And he learned. I tweaked it, just little things like that,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So that's the importance of Velcro. You can just pull that little item off and do a little switcheroo. That's fine.
Absolutely. Yes. Oh, I had those things everywhere, and even today he has one last visual, and it's a picture of an Old Spice, and it says not an option, and it's in his mirror right now.
Oh.
So he has one visual left.
Wait, so not an option to use or not an option to not use?
Not use. Yeah. Not an option to, because he would forget it. So I'm like, this is not an option to, to forget, basically.
Yeah. I just didn't know if you hated that scent. We needed to make another choice.
Well, the funny thing is I put him in all the bathrooms, because his brothers forget too. It's not just him.
I mean, it's just a boy thing.
Teenage boys. Yes.
Yeah. My husband, I am like, here's deodorant. Do you know what that is?
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah. It's just a
thing. It's an amazing thing.
It's a product that people should use daily. But so that I mean, maybe I can use that visual. Anyone could use visuals in their life.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I suppose, so being an autism mom has definitely made you more empathetic to the daily struggles and trying to make more realistic therapy goals.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I always tell parents, I think I had the most success with any of the therapies when I was able to communicate with the therapist regularly about the struggles we were having, because then they could help my child in, the speech therapist could address it. Hey, your mom told me this happened at school, or I heard this happened at recess. Let's talk about it. Or as counselors. So I always encourage parents, reach out to the therapist, send them a quick email. What happened at, recess today? The thing, my son used to say, oh, the popular kids played with me today. And I said, cool. What did they do? He goes, well, they played basketball. When the ball rolled away, I went and got it. And I'm like, honey, they're not being your friend. They're being mean to you. And he was like, what? Are you kidding me?
What do you
So I
mean?
would send that to his counselor.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, why don't y'all talk about this today?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really important, especially, if you can do it in that same week when it's fresh in their minds. So that was another huge thing, is that communication between your therapists.
Yeah. And this could sound overwhelming to somebody listening who's like, I have 75 people on my caseload. Um, so yeah, that could be difficult, but at the same time, it's just reflecting on, these are things that happened in people's actual life. Like, what does playing actually look like, and how
Right.
conducive is the child's home life to your homework carryover plans? So
Right. Yeah,
ensuring that
absolutely.
individualization. So do you have
Yes.
any tips or tricks? These are things that can be easily applied to today or tomorrow with little or no prep. It could be life or therapy, just for the listeners to try.
Yes. So, since we're talking about all this, structure and scheduling, I use this system called the lightning bolt system, and I
Oh,
use it with my son and all of my children at my school. Basically, I teach them lightning bolt. It kind of comes out of nowhere, and it's kind of scary and it shocks your system, right? But then it goes away and everything goes back to normal. So when they have a schedule change or when there's something unexpected, I have a symbol of a lightning bolt and I put it on their schedule and say, hey,
ah,
lightning bolt unexpected. So they know something unexpected is coming and they can, start learning to deal with it a little bit better. So I actually have a free download for the lightning bolt symbol and explains it on my blog at pandaspeech.com. So in a free visual schedule example. So if you're looking for that, but it has done wonders for my child. So each one of his teachers every year got a lightning bolt symbol, said, hey, when you have a field trip, make sure you show my son this. If there's an assembly, show him this. I promise things will go a lot smoother. And they usually
lovely.
did. So
Yeah, that's great.
yeah.
That's such a great idea. And I love the analogy that you have that corresponds with it. Yeah, because it's like shocking,
Yeah.
but then goes away. Yes.
Right. And
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
And then before we wrap up, do you have any quotes we like to leave the listeners with? Any sort of mantra that gets you through your day to day?
Well, I would say, from everything we talked about, if you just remember there is no cookie cutter treatment to autism. Treatment is fluid and ever changing with the child. As a mom, please know that is the most important thing as a therapist to remember. You have to be flexible and work with the family. And so yeah, I'd say that don't try to cookie cutter people with when you're dealing with autism, because each child is so unique, their strengths, their struggles.
Right. And then also their family is unique and everything too. So you just have uniqueness all the
Absolutely.
way. That's why we need everything
Yes.
individualized. Yes. Well, thank you so
Right.
much for joining me. I'm going to go get that free download and visual schedule and lightning bolt from your blog. So thank you so much, Amanda.
Absolutely.
And then let the listeners know where they can find you, contact you. You've got such a great Instagram feed.
So yeah, so it's just at Panda Speech with one word, and my blog is pandaspeech.com. It's kind of easy to remember. Just think of a panda.
And then are all of your products on your website, or do you have like a TPT as well?
Yeah, I all the free downloads you can find on my website, but I primarily sell my products on Teachers Pay Teachers just because it's so much easier than trying to sell on my own website at this point. But eventually, I hope to have my own website store, but right now it's mostly on Teachers Pay Teachers.
Okay, great. So everyone go check that out.
Awesome. Thank you so much.